Matt Lewis is calling on Rush to be the grown-up and excommunicate Trump of the Church of the Right. You know what? Let me go through this piece, because I want to get to it, because I don't want it to get too stale, because I found this piece to be hilarious. I pulled that the other day. So Matt Lewis, I used to do some talking head stuff with him years ago. This was, and I have to be honest, I haven't followed Matt Lewis's work in a while. I know he does some blogging head stuff with my old friend Bill Scher. And I guess apparently Michael did too. Whatever. But he's written a piece in the Daily Beast that I thought it was pretty hilarious. And I'll tell you why. And I think the premise of his piece is right. He basically concludes that Rush Limbaugh is one of the few leaders in the conservative movement who has the megaphone and the juice to enforce discipline and good behavior. He basically says Rush Limbaugh should get Donald Trump out of the race. He should basically extinguish the Donald Trump fire. And I would agree with Matt Lewis that if there's any individual or even group of individuals in the Republican Party who could do it, it would just be Rush Limbaugh, period. That in and of itself is why Donald Trump is doing so well. When Rush Limbaugh is your pillar of intellectual and partisan discipline, when your intellectual leader is Rush Limbaugh for your movement, then you have a problem that makes you, I guess, susceptible to a Donald Trump. That in and of itself is a huge indictment of the conservative movement. That that only Rush Limbaugh can save them from Donald Trump. That's the first thing that occurred to me. But this was also the funniest part about it. As I've written on numerous occasions, one of the major problems confronting the conservative movement today is that individual actors have perverse incentives to tarnish the collective brand. I'm in total agreement with this. It is basically what I've been saying for years, that the Republican Party is, and the conservative movement is a cottage industry for so many people who pursue their own agendas and going extreme, more and more extreme with the conservative ideology. And they're just making money off it. So they don't necessarily have an incentive to tarnish the conservative brand in his perspective, but they have, or the collective brand, but they have incentives for themselves, and their own success as conservatives hurts, in Matt's term, the collective brand. You see where we're going here, folks? We see this play out when politicians like Trump say controversial things for the sake of buzz and poll numbers. Now, we should understand, buzz and poll numbers means he's saying controversial things so that more conservatives will vote for him, so that he's more aligned with the thought processes of conservatives. But also true of conservative personalities, in quotes, who, after all, also need buzz and ratings and page views, like, say, Rush Limbaugh. Everyone is looking out for themselves, not conservatism or conservatives in general. Now, wait a second. I thought the primary bedrock of conservative economic ideology, at least, is that pursuit of one's own interests bring about the best results for the society at large. And here we have a perfect example of how that dynamic does not work at all. In fact, Lewis writes, it's basically, quote, a tragedy of the commons type situation where there are no adults looking out for the common good.
Right.
Conservatism says there is no common good but for the aggregate of individuals who are pursuing their own self-interest. And this is a perfect example. There are others we've mentioned on this program many times, but this is a perfect example of it. All of these people are pursuing their own self-interest. Shouldn't this then, in the aggregate, provide for the common good? If Donald Trump and the other 16 or 17 guys and one gal are pursuing their own self-interests, including Rush Limbaugh pursuing his own self-interest, shouldn't that mean that the conservative ideology trumps? And the idea that Rush Limbaugh should not pursue what's in his best interest. In other words, he's afraid of alienating part of his audience because he knows there's a big crossover. By somehow, I don't know, landing on the grenade for Donald, for the Republican Party. I think it's just hilarious. And I guess Matt doesn't even recognize the irony. Trying to say that there's a common good is not pursued by individual interests. But the reason why Donald Trump is so successful in the Republican race right now is because the Republicans have been espousing the philosophy that the makers and not the takers. Donald Trump's the ultimate maker, right? That personal success is the best thing you can do for the country. There you go. I don't know. I found that piece hilarious.